Hello and welcome to another Blazor Solar Power Hour. Doing solar power topics this week or this summer on the Blazor Power Hour. We've got Lance McCarthy and Justin Rice with me today. Lance is the one that has the solar panel system installed at his home, and he's feeding us data from his what is the thing called again? It's not quite. It's a server, but it's what was the name for it?
It's a broker. Yep.
The broker, the server and broker at his home, and then Justin is with us to help us build out our Blazor views. So we're
Yep,
going to
yep.
get into recapping what we did last week, and then we'll write some code this week to update what we have. So let me bring up my view here. I've got Visual Studio open with the work that we did last week. We basically have a one-page app so far. I'll give it a run so we can see what it looks like, and then we'll explain what it's doing, and then we'll talk about what we're going to add.
Yeah, let's make sure the internet's working because that's not always a guarantee.
So this is actually feeding data from, what is it? Is it Costa Rica?
Yes.
Where the solar panels are actually connected. So we've got a toggle here to turn on the app, and it looks like we're getting data in, and it's being displayed in real time on the page. I don't remember what that number is. I think that's
Well,
actually
we're
just a
getting 500
count.
watts though from the so PV are what the panel's getting, and right now there I just peeked at the camera. It is completely cloudy.
Mhm.
So because they're infrared or UV, I think it's infrared sensitive, but they can still get power even through a completely overcast day. So I'm quite impressed with that.
Nice. So we kind of built out a little bit of a shell here using some of the Telerik UI components. We still have a counter and fetch data example in there we're not going to need. We'll fix that later. We've got we could probably remove the hello world here. And then we've got our power data that comes in when we activate the connection to our service. This toggle is here for mostly debugging purposes right now, so we don't have to hit the server with a new connection every time we fire this up while we're building the application out. And then we're going to kind of tidy this up and put some better visuals in here. And then this is a running total, I think, of requests that we're getting out
That's
of
right.
the server. So every time there is any kind of topic that comes in, and topics are different messages from the infrastructure that's telling us things like the battery power and all of that. There is this loop that it's hitting, and or not a loop, but this is a subscription that's getting events that it's delegating. And we capture those, and then we do a state has changed to let the UI know that there's been an update. So this is actually causing a lot of updates in the UI to the tune of, let's see where we're at. About 2,000 updates now.
Yeah.
So it's really pushing hard. So we're going to tidy that up a bit today. I don't like this new feature or whatever you want to call it that Edge is doing. Whenever I screen share, I don't know if you guys could see this at home, but it's really annoying to me here while I'm trying to stream. And you probably see me fumbling with it. And if anybody knows how to turn this off, which I doubt you can do, it creates two different icons for Edge. And the icon down here on the right is simply this, you are sharing a screen message. And when you hide it, it still stays down here. And I keep clicking on it thinking it's going to open my browser window back up. So it's completely obnoxious and annoying. And I wish I could get rid of it,
Oh
but I
wow!
can't.
So that's a whole separate instance of Edge just for the sharing notice
Yeah.
instead of a notification. Yeah.
Yeah. And it keeps getting my attention. And I keep clicking on it thinking that's going to share the screen I want to look at. And then I have to hide it again, and then I sometimes click on it more than once because I'm human.
Yeah.
So, what do we want to start with, guys? We've got a couple items that we need to work on.
So I think one of the things I want to hand off before you start digging any further is get a list of the topics we know we want to capture, and then only do logic on those. All right, we can do
Okay.
that maybe with a switch statement, like I did in proof of concept, or we can do something different that's more realistic. And we know there's like 6, 7, or 8 topics that we know we want to handle. And then we can create like an enum for it or anything that makes it easier to write in code instead of a bunch of strings. And then
All right.
from there, you can build really fast on top of that.
All right. I'm going to go grab the notes that you sent me because it's a lot of text. A whole lot of
Exactly. And that's
text.
precisely why I did that in the proof of concept, because imagine this being duplicated everywhere that you needed to switch on a topic or check what kind of topic is coming in. Or so basically all this is just 2 helper methods, one that looks at a string and gives you an enum for the topic name that's more human readable, like solar power, and the other one does the opposite. It takes the enum and gives you back the string if you needed it.
So I'm just going to make a quick commit before we move on. And then we'll go into our app and then
This is great for me, just watching you, make commits through Visual Studio because I haven't played with this.
yeah, it's pretty
I'm
handy
not
to
the
have
only one.
everything all in one
Yeah.
place. I don't like jumping out of my environment if I don't have to. So this one was called topic name helper.cs. I'm just going to throw it in services for now because I don't have a better place to put it. And then I copy the entire set of bits here. So we'll move the namespace out.
Oh, you'll also need the topic name class. Let me send that to you real quick. It's an enum.
And we'll drop this
We'll just review
semicolon in
these
here.
changes and talk over what they're doing real quick after you get all set up, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. Then topic name.
It's one
Got
right
that
above the
here.
class. Yeah. Yep.
We'll go ahead and steal that out. And see me clicking on that stupid thing again.
You're
God.
fighting them all, yeah.
All right. And then we'll go ahead and add this. And I'm temporarily putting these under services. We talked about some other alternative methods we may use too after we refactor this out. So this is all temporary stuff that we're doing just to make life a little bit easier as we go. So this is the progression that we have. So we have topic names, and this is an enum of potential topics that we have. Is that right, Lance?
Yeah. So those are all the topics that I know that come in. There may be more. So essentially on day one, I just did a debug out or console log out, and I just watched it pump out all the topics that it has. There wasn't an easy way for me to get a list because apparently different manufacturers have different topics that come from their hardware. And the way that this broker works is it just says, okay, here's a total of all the inverters you might have, and then here's them coming from a particular inverter. And I only have one inverter, which is why you'll see inverter one. But I am in the middle of installing a second inverter for 240-volt things. So in the future, there will be inverter two. Try to make it a little future proof.
So this is, I guess, helping us so we don't have to work with magic strings and accidentally put in a string, type it wrong and have it not do what we expected. Is that the kind of the overarching theme here?
Yeah, so basically the only time we should have to touch this string is to pass it into this method. Everywhere else in the application should be a strongly typed object, which is this enum.
Okay.
Save you serious headache later.
So back here where we're doing got message, these are the messages coming from the server and triggering, we're subscribing to these messages. We've subscribed, we got a message, and then we've got kind of an if statement happening on these different topics. And now we can go in here and specify a topic using this get. Is that how it works? Get
Yeah, so I would start on 49. So where you have the
get topic name.
we know that we're going to get a topic name. So on line 50, you would just get the topic name as an enum, and then we can do the ifs after. So you do var topic name equals, and then we use the helper method.
Is it coming in as topic? And then
it's topic. So then we take that into pass it into there. There you go. So this should be the only time we ever touch that string.
We need a using statement here, I think.
Is it a static helper class? You have to prefix it with the class name.
Oh, okay. So it would be, what is the name of it?
Yeah, I didn't write these as extension methods yet.
Topic name helper. Name. Actually, I think we can just do a using static, can't we?
That's right. Yeah. Now you have the topic name, which is an enum, and you can do your ifs on that.
Oops. I thought IntelliSense would do that for me.
I think ReSharper will do
Quick
it.
refactoring. Oh, we're still in a. We might want to move this to a code behind file or something. It gets easier to use your refactoring tools when it's not in a Razor class.
Yeah, that's a question I had for you guys. That
yeah,
I did eventually do that. Right, I moved it to a code behind. But when does a Blazor developer make that decision?
Oh, what did I just click? Hopefully that wasn't destructive. A menu popped up and I clicked on something. I don't know what it was. All right. So for me, I can't speak for all developers out there, but if I'm at, say, 100% on my view, which I'm zoomed in for the show, we'll zoom out a little bit just for discussion. It's still a little large, so I'd probably have a little bit more text fitting on the page. If I have to scroll past either the HTML or a lot of code, I will split it. I like to be able to look at it in one view without having to scroll a long distance. It gets tricky for me with context switching between the HTML portion and the code portion. If I'm scrolling back and forth, sometimes I'll lose which one I'm in mentally, and I'm like, all right, it's time to break this up. Justin, how about you?
Yeah, I very rarely split them up. It just has to be a lot of code, just a lot of lines, and then I'm like, okay, let's split this up. But I should get more used to the shortcuts that apparently I didn't even realize that worked better in the code behind and not on the Razor page.
Yeah, the refactoring tools don't seem to work well in Razor pages or Razor components. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick, though, since we're on the subject, and it's a little bit of a sidebar, but it should only take a second. I'm going to go into Manage Extensions, and then under Extensions, I'm going to say Blazm. I think it's Blazm. And this is an extension by a friend of mine, Jimmy Ingstrom. We're going to go ahead and install this. And it's going to require me to reboot Visual Studio, but it's worth it. So we'll go ahead and reboot that. Let the V6 do its thing.
Doesn't Jimmy have a book out on Blazor, his second edition or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy has a book through, I believe it's Manning. It's got a raccoon on the cover. But yeah, Jimmy's fantastic author. streamer. He's got a show Coding After Work that he does with his wife Jessica. That's also wonderful. But this is a really cool tool that we just installed. We'll go ahead and boot Visual Studio back up, which I think Visual Studio doesn't require reboot after the next version for extensions. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they actually finally have it to where you can install extensions and they just start up right away. So now we have this Blazor extension here. It does some really cool things like show routes. So you can just like view all the routes in your app, among many other things we can get into later. So I'm going to pin this back out, and we have our home.razor file. And now you'll see that we have some menu items that we didn't have before. We can generate a unit test. We can isolate CSS. We can add JavaScript. We can create a code behind, and we can find component usages. I don't know what that one does, but we'll have to check it out later. I'm going to do the create code behind. And it didn't look like anything happened, but you'll see a little arrow popped up right here. And if we click on it, there is now a home.razor CS file, and it's created the partial class for us. So it's a nice little shortcut. And then what we can do is drop these side by side.
I like that it doesn't move your code yet because it doesn't assume your intentions.
Right. Exactly. So we could take everything that is in the code section here and cut it out and paste it here. And then we can drop the code section. And now we have a nice clean separation here. And then we can go back to our topic name helper.
See, as a XAML developer, I appreciate this. I spend most of my time, and there's a clear separation between markup and code behind in most circumstances. So this is more natural for me, but again, I'm not a Blazor dev, and your insight was helpful.
So this is showing some options, but it didn't do the static using. So let's try doing it manually. It's static, or is it using static? It's using static topic name helper. Right? Is that?
Yeah.
Using
I have to spell.
Extra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Topic name helper cannot be found. There we go. We got to put the whole namespace in there. And then we can actually just drop this.
Nice.
So it saves us from having to go write that as an extension method when we just want to use it without typing it all out.
Yeah.
So now we've got the topic name. And then I can take this back over. This is one thing I do like about a code behind file is it doesn't take away my ability to kind of see everything all at once. It actually makes it easier because now I don't have to scroll. That's my point about the scrolling. I guess you can see it now more visually.
Yeah.
Is when I start having to scroll past a single page, it's like when I hit a full page of markup and a full page of code behind, I split it up so I can do this. Or if I'm using the refactoring tools a lot, like that helps. So that was a great question. So we could take topic name now and do that. Is that?
Or
No.
vice versa, right? So it would be if topic name equals, you can get rid of all of line 41. Well, we're going to replace that yet. If topic name double equals, and then it'll be the enum, right? And IntelliSync should help us a lot there. You should be able to type in battery and get a list of battery options. Bingo, right? And we want total battery. I can't see the font, but what is the string underneath? It says total battery power.
Battery power total. I think it's the first one.
Oh, I hate when it does that. Battery. We've got state of charge, power total. Is that the one?
That's the one. Yep.
Total. All right.
Yep. And now you see how there's no more strings involved. It's
makes it a little bit easier to kind of
Yeah.
navigate all of this. So we can drop all of these. I'm going to keep it temporarily because we want to see what we're replacing. Hot topic name. Whoa, I hit a function key. I normally work off my laptop right now, and switching between keyboards is just driving my brain insane.
I actually
Topic
bought a
name.
second version of my keyboard, which is this 3-source Logitech. I bought a second one for travel so that I didn't have to deal with my laptop's keyboard.
That's what I need to do, is just take my desktop keyboard to my laptop. Another thing is, like, I spilt water on it. It's one of those ones you can remove all the switches. And I removed them all, and some of the keys didn't go back where they belong. So I've got like a reversed period and comma key and stuff. And there's, I
Take a
think my
picture of it before
Windows
you take them off.
my Windows key, I think, is also in the wrong place. So yeah, I'm just a disaster to my own self, really. So PV power inverter 1, I think, was the correct one here. We'll let's see, go to the next one and do topic name equals topic name dot grid inverter 1. Is that what it's going to be? Grid
And so the source is
power
the after
inverter
at the
1.
end. Yeah, exactly. Because we're going to encounter that first part of the topic name more often than we will the source. So I did it backwards like that to be easier and faster to type and visually distinguish between all the possibilities. I was trying to be nice to my future self and it worked. So it's like load power. Okay, which load power is it? It's inverter 1.
That says load apparent power.
Yeah, we don't want that.
There we go.
Yep.
Load power inverter 1. Excellent.
Apparent power is a complicated electrical topic.
And then we're doing this if every time, and then we're doing invoke async even if we don't catch it. So
Yeah,
we
we did
probably,
that just to get a realization on how often invoke async was being called, right? Update or state has changed. Yeah.
for now, we just want to do this, even though it's kind of a redundant code. And then the temp here is just collecting the on-caught messages. Is that right?
Yeah, so now in this case, it would be an observable collection of, instead of string, well, you actually, yeah, keep it as a string. So in case there's a topic that we don't know yet, it would show up in that list.
Yeah, because we'll show the code again. In your helper, if you hit a topic that we don't have, it's throwing an exception. And you did this just so you could be alerted to something that wasn't there, so you can log it and add it to the list. Later, we'll change that to something that's less intrusive. But for now, we're still catching them and adding
Intentionally
them.
designed to be as obnoxious as possible in the early prototyping stage.
Yeah. Okay,
I would
cool.
not want that in the production app.
So we'll go ahead and run this one more time, and our count should go down, by the way. This should be much less than it was before. And immediately it's throwing 30. It's still pretty active, really. It's doing this a lot.
It's
So we
because we're
talked
counting
about
4.
Yeah, we talked about ways of streamlining this. We'll get into that later. I think maybe we should switch over and let Justin guide us through adding something a little more visual first. Does that sound good?
Sure. So I was thinking maybe a gauge. It's nice to display power information in a gauge, right? Kind of a normal way to
Yeah.
visualize.
So right now we've got this. I mean, I marked it last show, like we want to show a chart or a gauge or something in here. So I think, was it battery power, Lance, that looks good on a gauge? That's something that's
Yeah,
gauge
battery
friendly.
power stays consistent mostly because it takes a long time to make changes, whereas grid power might fluctuate, or even better, photovoltaic power, you would want more real-time gauge-like properties.
So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. Had it zoomed out for our discussion earlier. What do I need here, Justin? I got Telerik.
Sure. Should we
There's a
create
lot of
some
visualizations.
reusable components, or just throw the gauge right here in the page for now?
I would just use it right on the page, I think, for now. We can
So
abstract it out later.
I think maybe the arc gauge. There are a couple of different ones, but yeah, I think Telerik arc gauge. We go back to Telerik. Yeah,
Just
arc.
doing some IntelliSense here just to show folks what. Whoops! Come on. My highlighting tool likes to. There we go. If I move off of it before I zoom in, it won't do that. But you can see we've got multiple gauges available. We've got the arc gauge with the arc gauge is like this. And then we've got a circular gauge that goes all the way around. Linear gauge is just either this direction or this direction. And then the radial gauge. What's the radial gauge look like?
I think it looks like a speed dial on your car. It's like a.
We can look at them. So we're going to the demos.telerik.com site, and then we've got the gauges are under gauges. That makes sense. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a numerical like output like that. So we're looking at doing the arc gauge, which is going to look like that. And I think that's a good visualization for a battery. So we've got a Telerik gauge. What do the properties for this look like? Let's see, we're not getting any properties off of that Y. It's like it's not picking it up.
So they have scale, pointers, and a label you can put to it.
I could have swore that we did. Telerik Blazor components is here in our imports file, which is
But
in
is
our
it an
components
instance of
folder.
Telerik gauge or arc gauge?
Oh, thank you, Lance.
Okay.
I didn't put arc gauge in there.
Arc
And
gauge.
then if we do this, now we have properties. So we've got the child content, class, height, render as, transitions with.
Let's go ahead and go inside the brackets and see what you got.
Okay. So we've got, I just typed in gauge to get IntelliSense going. And we've got arc gauge center label. You can see these are subcomponents of the arc gauge that we can add to this. So which ones do we want to add? Let's take a look. What do we have here in our demo? Arc gauge center label. Like that. I think that's how you do it. And then we could put stuff in here.
Yeah, and there should be a context that looks like if you go back to the demo.
So it'll be context dot. Am I doing this wrong? Let's look at the demo. I'll just copy this out. There's actually quite a few things. There's some pointers and things too. Should I just copy this maybe?
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of the template for things. So we have the arc gauge component, which it doesn't have like a property on it because it relies, I guess, kind of like a cascading state type of thing. it relies on whatever widgets you put inside of it to display out the gauge. So we've got a scale. This is our min max. So the battery doesn't ever charge over 100%, right?
Correct.
Lance, that's it. Oh, it looks like we can have multiple pointers in here as well, because this is showing pointer 0. So there's an array of pointers. We could add multiple things here, I'm assuming. And then we've got arc gauge pointer value, and then we want the value to be whatever our data source is, right?
I think you have it set as battery power, but it might be a string at this point.
Right.
So we'll have to go back in the code behind and
Yeah.
fix that after. But
And the gauge uses a double.
yeah.
All right. So let's go do a double, and then we'll say battery. Value, just so we have both for a minute, and then we'll fix this as we go, just so we don't break anything. So we got battery power value. Where are we grabbing the battery power text?
So here's where the second helper method comes. So right now you're doing C44, or actually 50, whichever one. So once we're inside, when we're looking at the payload segment, you made this extension method helper get topic value. We should see what that's returning.
So it's definitely returning a string. I can see it in the, so it's taking a byte array. It's taking that byte array, and then it's converting that to a string, and then that gets saved in the string battery power.
Yeah.
But
So
what we want to do,
it always comes as a string over the protocol, because it could be converted to a wide variety of data types. So then it would be your responsibility as a developer to take that resultant string and parse it into whatever data type you need.
okay,
So
so we
you
don't
could
need
just
to
take
do
battery
all of that
power and
again.
use
We
it.
just need
Yeah.
the string part. So we could do string dot, or no, sorry, double dot parse battery power, like that.
Yep. Or in the long run, we'll not want a second string value. But in the case of the gauge, I'm not sure if it gives you a big numerical thing. So for now, maybe both will be handy, or you don't necessarily have to do a separate parsing line. But for now, I think that's clear.
Yeah. All right, so we can run that, I assume. And there's our gauge. We need to connect it, and 360%. Something's off.
Okay.
So that is wattage, and that is
Yeah.
not battery total, I think. So this is a perfect example to go back to the topic list. If you go to topic name helpers, let's take a quick look at what topics we have that come in. So battery power total is in watts. So if we see what's on 20, PV energy, battery energy, and so power is in watts as opposed to percentage.
State of charge.
That would, let's go down more. Let's see what's in the inverter one. So battery current, maybe
Battery
voltage. Battery current would be watts.
Battery power. Battery absorption charge. Battery float charge. Voltage. 2 grid battery voltage. Shutdown battery voltage. Back to battery voltage. There's a lot of them. And then we got battery 1.
Current state.
Current
I think
state.
that is charging versus discharging.
State of charge. Voltage and power. So be state of charge, maybe?
I'm going to check the inverter real quick.
That sounds like if I were talking about
It is battery state of charge. Yep.
state of charge battery 1, and then I saved it. Did it hot reload that? We talked about hot reload last week. It is being worked on. It did work if I manually pushed it. So it's at 98% and is not like jumping all over the place either. So there's our gauge, and it's working. You get a nice animation there too. If we refresh the page, you could see it. Turn that on, and then whoop, it fills up.
Nice.
Like it.
That's good.
Cool. So we've got a grid or a chart on our page. I always see grid just by muscle memory. We talk about grids a lot here at Telerik. All right. So we've got that. Do we want to drop this battery power line off of there? And then we've got our grid or gauge. And then that's in a percentage. That seems about right to me. And we could do like other stuff with this later. This is a good starting point, but we have other capabilities in that gauge, don't we, Justin, to like do like color scaling and stuff?
Yeah. You can. You can add numbers. Little indicator numbers at various places.
Yeah, I think it's the
underneath
radial that
gauge.
has.
The
Yeah,
radial has the nice ticks that looks like I mentioned earlier, like a speedometer. Is what it reminds me of.
yeah, this is the one.
But,
Like we might want to
now,
go to this later, like where it shows like we could change these colors to like green, and then have like kind of like a gas gauge. Like full would be green on this side, empty would be red on that side.
it blinks
Then you could show
yellow
the
when it gets down.
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it.
So that's future plans. We could do that with a radial gauge. But for now, this is a good it's a good start here. We've got our percentage up. And then our other values seem to be working okay, even though they're not really formatted in any way. They're just showing a number.
Yeah.
So we could assume that power is watts, right?
They are, yeah.
And is that base watts, or is that like that's just watts? It's not like kilowatts or anything.
No. When it reaches 1,000,
That'd be a
it'll be a
lot.
kilowatt. Yep.
Okay.
And it's also important to think about what kind of data this is. Some of it is, we're thinking about real time as it is right now. And then once we add, a historical, we can then have, a chart to track it over time. But some of these values are more useful as on the spot checks. For example, state of charge. Power is also good to show you how much is coming out of it. Grid power is important. The most important to know is the photovoltaic power. So how much power is my solar panel? How much power is coming from my solar panels? How much power is coming out of my battery or into the battery? And how much power is the house using? And that's essentially what those three values are right there.
So one thing we might be able to do, a problem we could solve before we're done here. I know you guys got about 20 more minutes. We are still like racking up these like messages.
Yeah.
Like a lot of work is being done in the UI. And I bring it up because, if you pulled this up, say, on a mobile device, right? This is battery you're eating on your mobile device when it's doing all of these calculations for nothing. So basically, Blazor is having to diff this entire page and see if any values have changed from the state over and over and over again every time this number ticks up. And there may be ticks that we're not seeing in between this as well. Like this is a total count. So there, you see it jump up by 20. It's actually probably done that diff 20 times. So we need to fix that. That's not a good performance thing. So we kind of batted around some ideas of how to do this. And one thing I like about Blazor is there are multiple ways to solve a problem. So I'll bring a couple of these up, and I'm going to use a tool that we released here at Progress called the Blazor REPL. And if you haven't heard of the Blazor REPL before, gentlemen, I have a video that I'd like to play for you. You ready?
Go.
Quick ad break, guys.
All that messing and fussing just to share your Blazor demos? Well, fuss no more. Introducing Telerik Rebel for Blazor. With Telerik Rebel for Blazor, it's the perfect tool to write, run, and share your Blazor snippets and demos. Our easy-to-use online editor makes sharing your cool new demos as simple as writing code and clicking share. And why stop there? Have you ever wanted to share a live Blazor demo directly on your blog? No problem. Just click embed. It's just that easy. Install your favorite NuGet packages and try them live in the browser. You can even access all 95 Telerik UI for Blazor components in a variety of colors your friends will be sure to enjoy. But that's not all. Install the Telerik extension for Visual Studio or VS Code and share directly from your editor. Oh, amazing! Just visit blazorrebel.telerik.com and use it free now.
Do not use or operate Blazor Rebel if you're allergic to Blazor Rebel or one of its ingredients.
Dude, not only
Good-
was that awesome, but I use this thing at least several times a week. I did not know about the embed function. Like I could put,
Oh, okay.
man, okay,
Yeah. Just learned something as well.
So
That's good.
there's a lot of things that probably aren't in that video as well because we've been updating it over time. But if I am, let me see if I'm logged in and pop out of this really quick and log in. Oops. I don't know why, but every time I check a keep me logged in box, it never does. It's just there for show, I think. But now that I'm logged in, you can actually keep a log of all of your snippets in here and name them. So if I have one like this I did earlier today, I was helping a customer with a form submit thing. If I wanted to, make reference to this later, I could come in and name it. Form with hidden fields, because that's what that was about. And then that'll save. And then I can filter that list as well. So I've got this nice little save feature here. So I've got this throttling to subscribed service demo that I built. There's another one. Let's make sure I've got the right ones open. Hang on, let me go back and reopen that. I don't know which one I open where now. There's two different versions that I wrote as ideas that we could use here on the show. And one uses this one uses, let's see. One of them uses a timer to show, well, they both use a timer, I think, just to kind of mock the data coming in. And then we've got state has changed firing off. And then what's in main? Nothing's in main on that one. We're calling
so
state
every
has
3 seconds.
changed. Oh, this one is on after render. And then we're using this. Yeah, we're just checking. So this is the simplified version, I think. Let me see if this is the other one. This one I may have just distilled it more. I had one with the should render method. I think I might have ditched it because it wasn't. There was a better way to do it. Let's see if that's it. I did a couple editions of this. Uninitialized. That's not it either. Wait, how many of these did I do? I just wanted to show kind of that there was other ways to do this. But I did have one that was relying on the should render method. and there were some caveats with hijacking should render. What should render does is it tells Blazor whether it should re-render the page or not. You put a function in, so you say like if this condition is true, then re-render. If not, skip the re-rendering. And that did work, but that also would have meant, as events are coming in. Oh, I don't have the app open. There it is. As events are coming in, if I click on this, it's going to suppress that event until whatever the condition was that was met tells it it's okay to re-render and tell me that I toggled the button off. And that's not good either. Like I didn't want to mess with other events that were happening. I only want to suppress the rendering of this particular event. So should render was a little too heavy-handed. So what I opted into is just creating like a quick timestamp. And then when we call state has changed, we're kind of saying it can only re-render these based on these events every so often. It'll still change the values behind the scenes. It's not suppressing the update of the values. It's only suppressing the update of the UI of those values. So this little if statement here is all we really need. And we can add this into our component here. And let's take and bring this page over a little bit. And right now we have the state has changed happening in every if statement. We can go ahead and move this back to where we had it. We want to call it as await invoke async in this version. And then what we're going to do is say date time now, subtract the last time we re-rendered. And then if the time span is more than 3 seconds, then we'll go ahead and re-render. Otherwise, it's just going to wait for the next cycle. And since these are happening so often, I don't, not really going to suppress any rendering that's not going to happen within probably 3 seconds anyway. So I'm not going to lose any UI updates, really. I'm just kind of throttling them a little bit. So we just need to set up the last render field here. And then we can come up to the top of this here and just say time span is last render. And then we can default this to date time now, like that. And why is it throwing a fit? Is it?
Are we doing a full timestamp or duration? It's like
This is a date time.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, date time now, and then minus last.
You were getting it on after render, I think.
Yeah,
and resetting it every time.
Yeah. So as Justin pointed out, we need on initialized isn't going to help us here. We need to actually every single time we render, we want to go ahead and capture that new date. So we want to do override on after render, and then it's going to set us up with a bool. We don't need to worry about the first render part this time. We want to do this every time we render. Normally you want to capture this and say if first render and then do something here, because if you don't, you're going to end up like recalling the render method and you get in an infinite loop. We're not doing anything to cause it to re-render, so we're safe just saying last render equals date time now. So that's going to reset our date time or our last render value every time it renders. And now we should only update every 3 seconds. So if we go back and run this again.
You get to take out the other state has changed. I think you have 3 or 4 more in there.
Oh, I still have a couple more.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely going to cause this to not work properly. Good catch, Lance. Run that again. And then we could turn this on. And I'm not seeing any updates. There we go. Took 3 seconds. Yeah. We might want to add in maybe something to break that first delay. But it looks like it's flooding us with a lot less.
That's
We're
so much
not getting
better.
a render. We haven't re-rendered 400 times now. We've only re-rendered a few times. Matter of fact, let's do this just for temporary. We'll do an int. Thank you.
Yeah, count how many times it rendered versus how much data we got. That's perfect.
So we'll render count this, and then we'll do an on after render count plus, and then we can tell how many times we've rendered, and then we need to write that out to the UI a little bit somewhere. Render count, drop that in there, and then let's go ahead and run that again. And we could do a little proof of concept here. So we've got one render from the initial page render. That was 3 renders to get the buttons going.
Look at that,
and
already
now
saved.
4, 5, 6. You can see how big the savings are here.
Yeah.
Just putting in a timestamp and saying, all right, you're not allowed to re-render this.
Even if you did it every 1 second, it would still be a significant savings.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So this is huge. Like this just increased our performance like by several hundred factor. Like this is really good. And all for just what, 2 lines of code, like an if statement there and a backing field to keep the date here. And then of course, just capturing that date on the render.
The real problem is that for every 1 second, there can be dozens of topics, and each topic was causing its own render. So even if you had a tough client that still wanted that per 1 second real-time feel, you would still save 12x in updates. Well, in our case, 4x in updates. But as you add more topics, each topic adds an additional request to the UI. So
I do
it's
see
huge.
the grid power is 0. Was that caused by a side effect or?
I think we changed your stuff to getting grid power and changed it to the grid system power for the.
Could also be I'm running totally off of solar. Let me check. Because
Grid
right
power.
now it's running off battery and solar, so nothing is coming from the grid. This is the best case scenario where I'm using 0 energy from the grid. Yep, that looks right. Okay, yeah, so
Okay.
basically that means that I'm 100% self-sufficient right now.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So as long as we didn't break something, that's all I wanted to make sure. Because
solar panels are paying for themselves.
Exactly right.
Awesome.
Well, we don't have battery power. We should put battery power back in there. We took it out to get the percentage.
Oh, okay.
But let's drop battery power back in there and see exactly what's going on.
So what I can do is we had state battery here.
Oh yeah, that line 53 is a bug because it's not really battery power anymore. Yep.
Yeah, so let's see, battery power total.
Yeah.
And then we want to take that
Well,
out.
take line 53, the E thing, and pass that into the parse instead. Right?
Yeah.
Because the way that this cycles through, battery power might be incorrect at that time. So yeah, exactly. That would be accurate.
So battery power value, I think I fixed them both at the same time, didn't I? I think that's right.
Yeah. We don't have anything in the UI for it yet, do we?
Yeah, we did. Oh no, I deleted it. You're right. You are correct.
I think there's something still above the chart though. What's up there? Oh, it's hello world. Okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, we promised to take that out too. There we go. A little more professional. And then we've got battery power here.
You can put the watts if you want. Or we can do N. I forget the string format to put the 1000 separator and make it a K, but just a W
Where
would
at?
be good. So all those values are in watts. How would you add a string after that? Would it be like a space string?
I
Like
mean,
in
this
the
is
P?
HTML. Depends where you want that to be. We could just do that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
You could do that. You could also
Just put a blank space in between. Use the
yeah. You could also
do it there.
do a string interpolation, or you could say string.format around it. You could do it that way as well.
Yeah.
So
Then
it just
multiply it by,
depends.
yeah.
It
one.
depends where you want to add it. I would say this is probably bad practice, what I just did. It works. It's one of those, like, it passed the unit test. Like I did the thing. I fulfilled the spec that you gave me, right?
Yeah.
It shows that it's a W, but maybe not for wattage, because I don't think there's, well, maybe, I don't know. I guess it could be a different symbol elsewhere, but if you want to talk about like globalization, like you don't want to like write those into your HTML. You'd want that somewhere where it can go into your localization and globalization first.
Yeah.
And then the same with battery power. It's just as bad as writing it there. So like if we ever wanted to translate that, we'd want to put those values elsewhere as well. But that's like a whole other level of topic for us to get into, which we could totally address some other time. For now, this is actually fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to display the current units. We can worry about unit conversion and localization after.
Yeah.
Because we can always,
Like
you said, the string format in the interpolated string is super easy. You just do a colon and then an N2 or something.
you could even do string. See if I can remember. This is like dusting off an old part of my brain. Wattage format, and then you could put in the format, which would be like 0W or something like that, right? And then you could just pass that into the string format method. So you would do battery power.
You got to remember too that most of these are going to be converted to the numerical value because we'll use them in charts and gauges and stuff later.
Yeah. So this it's just I'm just showing it an option. I think you can do. Is that how you used to use these?
Yeah,
like everybody does string interpolation now,
yeah.
but you could set up formatters as well. If you're doing a lot of the same one over and over again, you can just set them up as a string and then pass it in. And then see if that actually worked. It's not something I write every day, so let's see if I got it on the first try. There would be two
because it would have had
W's.
an extra
It didn't
W.
work.
Yeah.
Did not work.
Oh, you see
I'll
that
have to look
battery
that
power
one up.
went negative. That's another
Negative.
reason.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
See, battery power went negative.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Right? It's because right now we're charging the battery sometimes and we're subtracting from the battery sometimes. We're not using any grid power. So the solar is generating 483, but the house is using 425, which means every once in a while, a little bit of extra juice has to come from the battery, or if there's extra in the solar, it goes to the battery. This is another reason why it's important to eventually convert these to numerical value and then worry about display string afterwards. But it's not the topic for today. So if you want to go off that.
Another cool thing that we can look at here is we've got. Wait, is my Windows key completely borked or what? think it is. It's not even just my keyboard keys being in the wrong place. I think the switch went out. All right, so we can look at these side by side too, because we can look at that throttling mechanism. We're still writing, because the code that's running on there, it's only suppressing the UI updates. So you could see these values streaming in, even though this number is changing once every 3 seconds. These are coming in all the time. So our console write line is still like emitting all the messages. It's not waiting 3 seconds. It's just the UI thread that's getting suppressed here.
It's important too,
So
because
that's
this
pretty
stuff
neat.
will go to the database.
Mm-hmm. So if we had a logger or a database or whatever behind the scenes collecting data, this the suppression system that we put in doesn't affect that. It's just the UI thread that's getting that delay, which is huge though. That's a huge savings for the end user. All right. So we did a couple things today. Let me take this out real fast before I commit. And then I will let you guys get back to business. So we want to take that string formatter. I have to look up string formatters. It's been a while since I've used that version of it.
You can need, yeah, and then how does Blazor handle numeric to display? Does it have an implicit toString?
Everything that you put in Razor gets two-stringed. So, so for example, let's take like we have this payload segment, and that's like a byte array, right?
Yeah.
So if we do this,
Well, for example, the value that we're putting into the arc gauge, if we write that to the UI, it would just be the string. Yeah, you have to have them as null. Right.
Already contains a definition for temp. Oh, our backing thing is to demo.
No,
And then we'll just save one of these out for a second. Doesn't matter which one, just to show what this does. Demo equals payload segment.
It would need to be to array index 0, because the payload segment is an array of bytes in a different way.
Yeah, let's actually use it.
There you go. Yeah.
So we'll just prove the same point. So we'll write this out to the screen and see what Blazor does with it. Write it right at the top. We're going to delete it before we do a commit. So this is an interesting topic to talk about. See what it gave us?
Yep.
System.byteArray or system.array segment, and then it's of system.byte. So what Blazor basically does is the Razor engine does a toString if it's not already a string, because everything that's getting written out to the browser is going to be an HTML string of some kind. So it does wrap it in like a safety thing. Like you can't just toString HTML. It will literally come out with the encodings in it. So that's a safety thing. You have to run it through another method to make it render dynamic HTML, because it's a security issue.
Yeah.
So everything else, though, I mean, it goes through here. It gets output as a string. What's interesting about that is when you start talking about nullability, this is one thing that Blazor does, is it will swallow nulls. So you don't, if it's just writing a value out and you're not dereferencing something, so you're not doing like demo dot whatever. If you're just writing a value and it's null, it won't blow up. It just doesn't write anything. It's just that it doesn't put a string out. So that's another Blazor feature, I guess you could call it, is it's not going to throw a null reference exception if you're just writing a null value to the screen. So I've used this a few times. Just kind of hijacked the fact that it does a toString on it.
Yep.
So for example, if you are writing a component or a CSS class and you want it to display something that's more than the class name like that, you can actually override the toString method, and then you can just reference it with the razor, with the @ symbol and the class, and then it will use that toString method to write the message in the on the HTML that you wanted. So you can hijack. It's not something that you use a lot, but it did come up. I have a utility that I use to build out CSS and style classes, and you can just take the class builder. It's a style builder or class builder, and you can just reference the class name up here, the instance of that class would be like style builder instance, and it will inject the styles directly into the page without you having to turn it into a string.
That's
so
handy.
It does come in handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do a little cleanup real quick. These are all values we're using. We're still writing this out. Let's actually change this because we're keeping it to there we go. We'll call that live messages. We're still checking to see if we're subscribed. Do we need to keep the render count? I think we proved our point there. Drop the render count. And then we don't need that demo
What
code
if we
anymore.
split the difference and make the update 2 seconds? Because if we're going to have gauges,
Sure.
maybe a little faster, and now we've proven it's only going to be 4. Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's move this up to the top and just say int update rate. Let's make that a little more specific. UI update rate. Capitalization is always a pain when you're talking about abbreviations. We'll call it UI update rate though. 2. Really? It's not going to just fix that for me. Boy, I'm lazy and it's not helping me. UI update rate. Yeah, we could even pass that into a configuration option later. So you could just configure it at the app level. So now we moved that up here.
That is a great option for user settings. Give it the power to the user. Yep.
There we go. So we'll put a to-do message on that one. And then I think we cleaned that up pretty good, right? Is there anything in the UI? Fix the solar dashboard. We can take that out. There we go. Do we need the live count anymore?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I think we proved our point with that as well. And we're good. We'll also do, so now that we have our refactoring tools, we can check our usings. They're good. And we'll do one more build. Yes, just to make sure we're building.
Yeah, you can see why I started using.
Sure you didn't break anything?
Sorry, I heard you both at the same time.
What was that, Justin?
Just making sure you didn't break anything.
Yeah.
At the end.
Absolutely. We do need to fix that startup delay though. So I do need to check on that one as well. So we'll just put a message in here as well for the if statement to do fix.
But at a minimum, can we just set the default values to 0?
Oh, you know what? Hang on. I might be able to fix this right now. So if we're doing this last render thing here, then
It's waiting until the first run, that last render, right?
yeah. So
You can say if first render, last render equals 2 already. So there it goes ahead and
yeah, we'd want to do it, I think, when we toggle the button. And if we're subscribing, right?
Yep.
Then we could say last render equals date time
minus 3.
now seconds.
Sweet.
I like it. Why not, right? So now it should immediately. Oh, still seem to have a delay there, huh? Seemed like a longer delay though than
2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something is still
It's
happening.
almost 3 seconds, I think.
Interesting.
I think it gets set and then it gets reset immediately when the page renders.
Oh, you're right.
Because when you toggle the button.
Yeah.
Yeah, that triggers.
Yeah.
That triggers it. Darn, that hack didn't work. And it's not going to be the first render, so we can't use the first render flag.
So you do if first render, and then set it there, right? But then you don't want it to. I don't know if you haven't activated.
Yeah, it's almost like we need our
visible?
own. So it's like we need our own like method or another field that says like just like first render, but it's first message or something. Yeah, we might want to save that for another show and think of an intelligent way to do it. We might need another flag in there just to fix that little bug. All right. I thought I had it. Just didn't have enough luck with that one. All right. So we could stop that, and then we can say get changes. Then we will see. I need to get GitHub Copilot. Apparently it can write commit messages now. So we've got a lot of things going on here. Home.
That only works in enterprise. I was talking to the GitHub Copilot team. It's not,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted it to. And it does it for pull requests. Kind of cool.
If I told somebody, I said, if you really want to impress me, like have it do it the opposite way, where you write the git commit message and then it writes the code for you.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, we added a gauge. We fixed re-render per git dot message. What else did we do in here? Anything else worth mentioning? I think
those are the
covered it
highlights
pretty
right
good.
there.
Yeah. So let's get those, push those up, and that's the show for today, folks. We'll be back next week. We'll take this a step further and fix some of our bugs, move some of these configurations out, and then we'll probably work on adding some more UI components, and at the same time maybe refactor some of the gotten message routine to maybe make that a little bit more extensible, where it can, because I think we're not going to display every bit of data. We're going to add a database, right, and collect data as well. So there's going to be incoming messages that go to the database. There's going to be incoming messages that go to the database and the UI. There's going to be some that get logged as warnings, all sorts of stuff. So we'll have to kind of sort through those, and we'll figure out a way of doing that intelligently. Thanks again, Justin and Lance, for joining me, and we will see you next week on another Blazor Solar Power Hour.